So now
We
there's
have
some
people.
participants
Yes.
coming. That's
Hi.
always fun. Welcome.
Somebody raised their hand. Hi.
Yes.
Uh,
Did you have a question, Hazel, or are you just, I don't,
Greetings.
I don't know if you can talk to us. So you might need to put it in the chat or the Q&A. So I'm going to welcome everybody. I'm Linda Brault.
I am Ine Jack. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where
Depending
you
on where
are.
you are. Yeah.
Yes.
In California, it's still morning.
Yes.
Oh, good. People are putting some things in. So Hazel, we don't know how to help you with your hand up, so you'll have to put it in the Q&A. But I'm going to tell you that if you know where to get the handouts, so in the lobby. Oh, and Caroline just put that up there. In the lobby, there is a place that you can click on our session, and then we do have handouts. So that we have the PowerPoint and we have a Bright Ideas and another resource. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing the PowerPoint. And let me tell it okay that it's transcribing. So welcome, everybody. We're going to talk to you for this next short period of time about universal design and universal design for learning, but with a focus on infants and toddlers, kind of beginning at the beginning. So we actually have a project called Beginning Together for Inclusive Childcare that we work with. So that's what we're putting together. So I am Linda Brault. I oversee the projects for supporting inclusive early learning for WestEd, and we have several contracts with the California Department of Social Services. And Ine?
I am Ine Jack. I work on Linda's team as an inclusion specialist. And I am so excited to be here with y'all talking about UDL.
There you go. So we did provide a Bright Ideas page, and we have a place for notes on the back. And then there's going to be a period of time during this session that we're going to pause so that you can make notes about what you're thinking after we've talked about it. And we will the slides have the questions on them. So if you have not downloaded the Bright Ideas page, not to worry, you can just have a paper and pencil and it'll be just fine, knowing that these are going to stay up and you can get them after the session. So when we talk about universal design, I think it's important to understand this grew out of architecture, and it's defined in the Assistive Technology Act and the federal government, but it's a concept or philosophy for designing and delivering products and services that are usable by people with the widest possible range of functional capabilities, which includes products and services that are directly accessible. So things that people can do without requiring an assistive technology, and products and services that are interoperable with assistive technologies. So basically what that means is this is a way to make sure that from the beginning, things are available and accessible to people. So this is one of our favorite cartoons where there's a young man in a wheelchair and he asks the person shoveling snow, could you please shovel the ramp? And the person shoveling says, all these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I will clear the ramp for you. And he says, but if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in. And that's sort of a nice thought, is that clearing a path for people with disabilities kind of clears the path for everyone. So how does this apply to babies? And I like to think of universal design a little bit like baby proofing. So we know when we baby proof, we're trying to keep children from harming themselves. Like this, I'm sure, is a shelf that is affixed to the wall before children climb in it. But boy, kids love putting their bodies into small spaces. Universal design is kind of where you look at your overall environment and try to make the environment and the equipment easy to use and available. And so you think about what might be get in the way for some children or limit the way it's used, and you try to think outside the box. So there's several principles that guide universal design, and I'm going to just mention these and talk a little bit about some of the possibilities. So equitable use, this means everybody can access them. So this is where you would think about how materials are low enough that children who are crawling or rolling could access them, and somebody that's toddling around could also get to them. So, understanding that the materials that you want children to have access to are right there. There should be flexibility in use. And this is what I love about universal design is you start thinking about how will different children use this? How will how will a baby explore this? You have to think about they're going to put things in their mouth. So what's safe to put in their mouth? But you might have older children who want to, play with the toys in different ways. So accommodating that range of learners. You want things to be simple and intuitive. So when it's clear what to do, it's not something you have to get a lot of help for how to not like the internet where you have to get a lot of help to know how to do things, but for some people it's very intuitive. Perceptible information, so really thinking of what are all the sensory modes that people have: visual, hearing, tactile, proprioceptive. What are some of those ways that people are taking in information? And for very young children, we know that's really where they're putting together their schemas and their thoughts. So we want to make sure that we're giving them lots of sensory opportunities. The other thing is you want to be sure that there's tolerance for error, so that if something doesn't go quite as planned, it's not going to be a shelf's not going to fall over on somebody, or something is not going to be dramatically terrible. Low physical effort, and this is an interesting thing because I think with some children, they like to challenge themselves and pick up heavier things or try to move heavier things. And at the same time, there are some children who may have less strength in their muscles, and so for them to have some lighter weight activities, cardboard blocks they could move, that might be a little easier. And just thinking of how low physical effort is something we think about when we look at like door handles that just you can push to open as opposed to having to grab and turn. That's a lower physical effort. And then size and space for approach and use. So you want to have an environment that really allows appropriate and easy movement all the way around. So I have us thinking about this for early childhood education, it's a place that if you had children of different abilities and different ages, they can all actively engage, learn, grow, regardless of their individual abilities or needs. So these are two just beautiful real life environments that I wanted you to kind of look at with those elements in mind. And you can see that things are quite accessible. This is for infants. And so like the little space they could crawl up and sit. There's manipulatives, there's low shelves, there's space on the floor. And then on the one to the right, you can see how things on the shelving it's very I like to say aesthetically, put together. So it's not crammed, everything isn't crammed up on the shelves, so that children can really look and see what's there. And then there's some baskets and such in the back. So again, we have somebody raising their hand, and I don't know if they can put a question in the chat because I don't know if we can unmute people. So Wendy, can you write it in the chat? Yes, you have access to the PowerPoint. And so the PowerPoint presentation is one of the handouts that you have access to. So if that was the question. Okay. So one of the nice things about working with babies, infants and toddlers is, and any of you who work with infants and toddlers know, if you have a group of 6-month-olds that were all born on the exact same day, they are not doing the exact same thing. If you have a group of 2-year-olds who were all born on the exact same day, they are not doing the exact same thing. So one of the beauties of early childhood development is it happens organically with children. And so you can have children in different places developmentally who were essentially the same age. And then many times you have mixed ages in your caring for infants and toddlers. Family childcare, for example, has mixed ages, and that naturally helps you set the place up for universal design, because then you're already thinking, what can I do that's going to be safe for the very young infants and yet engaging for the toddlers, and challenging and exciting for the preschoolers or school age children, so that in a those kind of environments, you're thinking about all of those access ways of interacting. So really understanding, and this is probably the thing with infants and toddlers to think about the most, is that there are children who are really ground based. They're rolling, they're scooting, they're crawling. And then there are children who are moving upright. So they're toddling, they're walking, they're running, they're jumping. So, you have to look at how will the space support children, and how will it keep the children who are not moving as quickly or upright safe. So that's always the fun challenge. But if you might have a little something with a little lip on it, which is enough of a reminder for children who are toddling that takes them a while to get into it, and the children who are rolling can't get out of it. So then you have a little bit of a divided space. Anything to add, Ine? So universal design has a lot of benefits. And there, we did give you a resource link here. But when you have children in a setting that you've already thought about, how can everyone make use of this environment, you're going to have more independence when things are accessible for people and easy to move and manipulate. You're going to have fewer barriers to things that children can do to participate. Children feel really good. They like control, they like having the ability to make things happen. There's more opportunity for peer interactions because the adults don't have to always be hovering and be in the way. And I think there's a lot of inclusive attitudes. Children are really good at noticing, oh, do you need me to hand you this? Or how do you want to pick that up? Or what can I do to help you? So there's ways that children sort of start being inclusive and welcoming. So it's just a really nice element. And what we love about universal design, and as Ine is going to talk about universal design for learning, is that this is how you plan in advance. If you set your environment up to be welcoming to all abilities, then if you have a child that enrolls who has a disability or has a difference in the way they do things, you're going to be already ready to look at how you individualize and make it work for that child.
Could I have slide control, Linda? That would be great. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I think Linda did a great job talking about universal design, and universal design is just sort of how I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I got it, Linda. Oh no. Oh, you're muted.
It says I gave you remote control. So try clicking on the bottom there. Yeah.
Just have the little button. Okay.
Okay.
Just how we as adults interact with thanks, Linda, the world. So I think that's just a really important place to ground ourselves in, that we access the ability to have this universally designed environment. Some of the things that I'm going to say might sound a little jargony, so I'm going to try and give lots of examples for all of this information. Universal design for learning is such an important framework for every age, in particularly early childhood. I would say because a universally designed environment, as Linda emphasized in those pictures, showed it beautifully, it just creates an environment and activities that are more accessible for infants and toddlers, and if you're in a mixed age setting, for every child to access what they need. So we really want to make sure that we give and provide opportunities for flexibility of choice. We love options. I know pre-COVID, I was more excited about buffets, but think about universal design as a buffet for learning. It just gives everyone the ability to get what they need and without creating this structure that has to be enforced for you to have this selected menu. And it just really supports diversity and allows people to access these principles, which are engagement, representation, and action expression. So when we think about multiple means of engagement, it's just how these little ones are engaged or interacting with the different things that we have set out for them, how they feel connected, how they stay motivated, how they get excited to play with things. And that is what engagement is. And representation is just how each of the children that we care for or that we support people in caring for get information and make sense of it. And that's such an important and crucial job for us as early childhood educators. And finally, we have the principle of action and expression, and that's just options for learners to demonstrate their understanding. Um, Children in preschool is my expertise, but I'm thinking of children's love and excitement, a lot of the tension that occurs in dramatic play area because they get options to be flexible in creating exciting materials for whatever they want to do. So we're going to get a little bit more into each of these things. And if you would like additional resources outside of the resources that we provide today, the website on the bottom of the screen, cast.org, has a bunch of resources available to dive more into universal design for learning. But we're going to go into the first principle, and that is multiple means of engagement. And I'm going to connect it a little bit to literacy and then a little bit to math, just because we know that math at this age is not as clean cut as it is in older ages. So it's more of exploration, it's more of discovering, it's more of these concepts. Linda and I were just talking about backstage object permanence for the little ones, because that is a concept. So when you have an item, we'll put an item on a baby's high chair, and then that item goes away. Before they have object permanence, the object goes away in their minds, but when they have it, they know and they'll start looking for it. So that is a concept that they're a cognitive concept that little ones are growing and developing at this age, but eventually they're going to need to be able to do that, to do addition and subtraction and hold numbers and concepts in their head when they're in those school age years. So that's the connection that I wanted to make for you all, if you don't see a pure, clean connection with our examples. So multiple means of engagement, again, can happen when we're interacting with puppets or having, I've seen balloons on little ones now, or different sensory objects, so they feel like they have some connection to the experience. It's a more interactive play, so playing peekaboo, stacking blocks, incorporating counting, singing. These are all ways that we can engage learners or little ones in the learning process of math using the principle or thinking about the principle of engagement, and having, as the picture shows us, social interaction, having some type of group activities and participating in turn taking. I see these little girls in the picture, they're holding objects from the story. So just keeping children engaged using different props or materials will really support this UDL principle. So the why of engagement, the principle of engagement is the why of learning. This is why we learn. And a lot of the things that I talked about in that last slide are in this slide as well. Really having structure in and routines in our days when we are working with infants and toddlers is such an important part of that relationship building, which is necessary, and that just helps them stay regulated. So our
I
goal.
just want to say the reason I'm trying to look at the chat. Evidently, I cannot look at the chat without moving. So, Carolyn, just know I cannot look at the chat when she's talking. I'll stop
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. It's not distracting me. It was just surprising. So our goal is just really to capture and sustain attention. Children love these light tables. Um, so when we have items like light tables, that's incorporating that sensory play and building in objects of different shapes and different textures so they can explore that curiosity that is what they have at this age. We can do counting, we can talk about the schedule, we can talk about what's happening. This is all so important to integrating some type of tangible or hands-on interactive learning experience to help them understand that why and eventually give them that passion and love for math that I have. So this is just your opportunity to pause and reflect. I know Linda said earlier that there are resources that have these reflection papers on them. It's called our Bright Ideas. And we just want you to take a few minutes to think about this first principle. And we're going to go through this for all the principles, the principle of engagement. So if you don't have the resource, please feel free to just get a scratch piece of paper out, get a pen, and just pause and think about this question. How can I make an activity captivating and relevant for all young learners, taking into account their diverse interests, abilities, and backgrounds? I'm going to be silent for a moment so you can reflect. All right, Linda, I don't know if you saw that question that came into, okay, I'm going
I
to
can
read it
see
out loud.
nothing. Thank
Okay.
you.
But so you can know what I'm speaking to. So I'm going to attempt your name. Renuka, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, asked a great question in the Q&A. She asked, does UDL mean that all children do all the activities together in the same way? Can children who are unable to have attention for large group activities have accommodations so they can do other activities that engage them? So
Certainly,
go ahead.
yeah. I mean, our intention is UDL does not mean everybody's doing the same thing. Absolutely not. It really does look at individualization and also just as she's a preschool focused person. I'm an infant toddler focused person. We do very little whole group activities with infants and toddlers, maybe none, um, because they don't kind of have that sort of ability to attend to this whole large group and make what everybody else is doing make sense. So what universal design would say is you would design your activities so that there would be an opportunity to go deeper in what a child is interested in a small group with perhaps one of the, if it's a family childcare home, the family childcare provider could sit with an couple of infants and toddlers who really wanted to explore a safe mirror and some other shapes. And at the same time, some older toddlers could be taking the shapes out of the bucket and putting them into the shape sorter on their own. So you would have activities that if you wanted to say, oh, we're all going to be doing something around this, playing in little centers, that would be available at that time. So I don't know if that answered the question or if you want to add to it, Ine.
Yeah, I think that's great. If we're thinking about it conceptually, and I'll just say shapes because shapes we can access at infant and toddler and preschool age. It's just having options for how children learn and explore that. And it's not having activities that everybody does. It's like I am a person who doesn't like sticky, and I did not gravitate towards that in my early childhood experience. But when I was a preschool teacher, I made sure that if we were doing shapes, I would have us painting with shapes, exploring different textures of shapes, having shapes in books, having songs about shapes, learning sign language with shapes, cooking with shapes. So UDL in its framework gave me and the children in my care the ability to learn shapes in different ways in all of those different manners. And again, conceptually, the idea is shapes, but they could access learning about shapes with all of these different things that I provided for them. And that is the beauty of UDL.
And
Hopefully.
when we're thinking about why we learn, babies and children are very self-motivated. They have a curriculum. They are looking to learn. It's almost like if we just can get out of their way.
Mhm.
So, you want to make it captivating, but I'll never forget. Sometimes it's and you've all seen that where you buy an expensive toy and all the child wants to do is play with the box.
Box.
That's okay. Kids are very able to make a lot of things exciting when they're young. So I think we can go on, and the
Yeah,
next one we'll get into a little bit more of this, and hopefully it'll give you a broader picture.
great. I agree. So the second principle is kind of what I was just talking about in my example of the shapes, multiple means of representation. So when we're introducing concepts, like I just discussed, just having a combination or a variety of ways to introduce that. Visuals, pictures, videos, trying not to do screen time for this age, verbal, explanation, some tactile, different feelings. So plush toys, texture cards. I loved sandpaper, or those um, needle point, I guess, but not the needle, just that plastic that we can get at the craft store. These are all ways that engage different senses and gives us this different representation. So using different sizes too. We often really focus on small things, but I loved having big books in my class because it's different when a little one is holding this ginormous book on their laps. They're just like, oh, wow, I can see these images so much clearer. They're my size. Um, Again, providing those soft blocks and toys that can be stacked or sorted in size. And these are all introducing math concepts of measurement and comparison. And that's why size is important for books. And repetition, repetition, repetition. I have sung so many songs hundreds of times in my life that involve counting and identifying shapes and colors. And then a lot of the times I just come up with songs because I can insert a child's name or insert something that we did. And that is going to be a way that we can represent this concept in a way that will stick for them. So representation is the principle or the what of learning. And it's even seeing this teacher in this image right here on the screen is so powerful because it just gives us um, a way that we can present content in different ways. Standing at a sand table with toddlers is so, 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 so important. So we just want to make sure that we provide hands-on materials. I know for preschool, it's a little bit easier with like beads and sorting, but they can still sort here in this sandbox. They can still put some small toys that might go in their mouths, but in that are safe, and they are sorting back and forth with the cups. Just some interactive storytelling and some movement and some music. So just using a lot of different ways to present information is the way we can cater to those diverse learners and just make math and early concepts in general more accessible and more engaging, which is the important part. And I have to
I,
keep us,
I
oh,
wait, go
yes.
back. I was just going to say the one other thing I love about this example, and I happen to know, I know where the pictures were taken, but they had asked the families to send in um, cups that they could use. So they had these like yogurt containers
Yogurt.
and yogurt
Mhm.
containers and butter dishes and rice dishes. And so that was also, they were bringing in the home, some familiarity, and, allowing children to explore in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, reality is so important for math because when I was an elementary school teacher, everybody shopped on Amazon, and just giving children access to the real world. It's like, oh, I want to participate. They see these things in their lives. It's like, let me use them in a different way. I agree, Linda. So we're going to pause for another minute to do some reflecting on representation. So the question that you can reflect on is, how can I present concepts in different ways to ensure that all young children can grasp and connect with ideas using different sensory experiences? Okay, there is lots of great suggestions in the chat. I will read them for Linda. They're multisensory activities. Somebody loved the sand table. It also provides limited materials. I'm like, that's a great suggestion. I'm a person who gets overly stimulated when there's too much going on, and we forget about those children. So yes, so they can focus. Songs and movements and nature. We have to be outside. I love being outside. Rhythm, whole body learning. So dancing and singing. Yes, these are all early math concepts that we can help make it more universally designed. So the final principle is the principle of action and expression. And sometimes it's called the principle of demonstration, depends on which organization you're looking at or talking to, but it's just really focused on how children understand concepts and then express it back to you. So at this age, for infants and toddlers and even preschoolers, we really want to encourage play-based learning. So just allow children to demonstrate their understanding through activities. They are learning sitting in this very small group, playing with these foam blocks. That is learning. Rolling a ball back and forth, that is learning and understanding. That's physics, that's taking turns. That is all these concepts that will eventually grow into something else. Just providing children opportunities to use art materials to create patterns and designs, and fostering creativity and exploration. What the keynote speaker kept talking to earlier was that stuntedness that a lot of children in elementary school experience because they aren't allowed to play anymore. So we really want to encourage play in these years that we have the ability to do play. And that is showing their understanding for what they are learning in those moments they are learning with you. But it also can be gestures and sounds and noises and babbling back and forth. That is children in infants and toddler age communicating and showing us what they know. So action expression is the how of learning. So it's really essential that infants and toddlers can demonstrate their understanding of these math concepts or just concepts in general, but for themselves, whether that is drawing a picture, whether that is acting, whether that is giggling and interacting with a care provider back and forth or pointing. These are all ways that they're expressing what they're learning. And we just really want to encourage this. There's no test that we are saying that is going to give us what we are looking for, but it's just providing them opportunities to have these moments of expression with you, their care provider, and allowing them to use their bodies to demonstrate these concepts, whether that is holding up their little arms or counting blocks or putting finger puppets on their hands. And it's not just verbal. We want to ensure that we have other ways that they're expressing their knowledge that they're learning with you. Anything you wanted to add for this one, Linda?
Well, only that as a person, and both of us are very into including children with disabilities, if I find that people who have worked with infants and toddlers do very well at inclusion because they're already used to looking for different ways that people express. You know, children don't raise their hand and say, "I'd like a bottle." They communicate in nonverbal ways and non-speaking ways. And so I think it's sets us up for success with children who may have a delay in some of their spoken language, but have many other ways of communicating.
Yes, because like I have learned recently, because of my journey, communication happens right outside the womb. As soon as they are here on this earth, they are communicating with us one scream at a time. So our final bright ideas is how can I provide a range of ways for young children to express their understanding in ways that align with their strengths and preferences? Last minute. Okay, well done.
Okay, wait till you see this one.
Ooh.
Ooh. So we're going to kind of wrap up here. We only have a few more minutes, but talking about some practical ways that you can think about this in your infant toddler settings. So one of the easiest and probably best used examples of the visual supports are first then. So using something that says first we wash our hands, then we eat breakfast. So using real pictures of the real children in your group is more accessible to younger children. They can see that. Now you might want to see if people are good at taking pictures that don't have so much background and distraction. But you know what? Kids are pretty resilient. They'll figure it out. So if you have a first then, or you can anticipate the transitions. Transitions are something that a lot of times are adult initiated. Children will move between things, but as I think Ine mentioned earlier, their very favorite thing is to repeat it and do it over and over and over again. That's a way that they make learning integrate into their own understanding. So when we may be needing to move on from this play activity to move into a snack situation, they're not there yet. So we have to show them a transition. Well, first we need to do this, then we can come back and play with these magnet tiles or whatever it is. The other thing is just thinking about how the visual how the environment can be set up to really support children's independence so that it can be color coded or labels on the bins or labels on shelving that really helps children for cleaning up, but also for finding it again. We've talked again about some varied materials, but whenever you're looking at children, think of some children are going to have different kinds of grasp that they're using. Some children will use a whole hand grasp. Some children will be separating their fingers. Some children will need more other kinds of supports to start using the fine motor. And we talked about the sensory preferences. Paying attention to some children are going to be very sensitive to texture and may not like certain textures and prefer that, but you can always make sure you're having things available in different ways. Incorporate movement. You know, young children spend most of their time moving if left to their own devices. If you just watch a child, they will move pretty constantly. So for very young children, how can we make that okay? How can we have that environment so if they are sitting and we're talking with them at the snack table, they can be doing, their little shaky, bouncy thing, because that's what kids are doing. They're have a lot of energy and their muscles are all trying to figure out what to do. You also want to maximize hands-on activities, anything that children can manipulate, touch, explore from various sides is going to be important. And we've talked about this from the beginning, choices. That is one of the keys to success for working with toddlers is choice. Because they are starting to figure out that, hey, I can say no, and I can decide what I want to do. And if they have choices, real choices, then that allows them to kind of go in a direction. You have three acceptable choices. They can do any of these three things. You want to hold my right hand or my left hand, or do you want me to carry you outside? We're not running out the door. So just some things to think about with that. And then individualizing learning. And I said this at the beginning, what I love about designing your environment for all is from the beginning, you're ready to individualize if you have a child that comes in with the therapeutic walker. So now you've already have enough space, but now you have to say, oh, we can't have the rugs down because that's going to catch his wheels. So let's move the rugs. That's your individualization. You don't have to say, oh, we have to move all the materials away because he can't get around. You already had that ready for him. And again, with choice, we are really letting the children take ownership of their learning journey. And the individualization, as I say, my experience as infant and toddler teachers are usually very good at individualizing already. So when I come in as an inclusion specialist and give some suggestions, it's just expanding on what they were already doing for a variety of children. Anything to add, Ine? Anything in the chat I need to be
No,
attentive?
just great suggestions about the last right idea.
Yay. So this goes back to the CAST group. Just if you think about how we can make learning accessible for all, there's engagement. So we want to have kids are already motivated to learn. We want to sustain that and keep that enthusiasm going, not squash it or stunt it. Representation, we want different ways that children can understand. And then action and expression. We want to be able to have children communicate with us in ways that will really make them feel seen and heard. So there are a lot of resources that can be helpful. And if you look up universal design and universal design for learning, like the Head Start Network has a lot of great materials. You'll just see all sorts of things. Inclusion Works is a book that is available free for downloading. And I gave you the link here to our website where we have the links for both the English and the Spanish version. The other nice thing is that they do have video examples in the book. And so you can also see a description of universal design and universal design for learning with some video examples and children experiencing them. So what we're hoping you can do is look at your action plan, and on the back of the action plan, there was a place that you could write just your own notes and ideas, and maybe you want to grab something that's in the chat that you thought was a great idea for you. And then we'd love you to make an action plan. Like what's something you want to do? Maybe you want to read over we provided a checklist for universal design for learning that you can download. So maybe that's what you want to do, or you just want to go visit the website for CAST. So we'll give you just another minute for that. Isn't that one fun? I love my little new. So we have a website, cainclusion.org, that has beginning together. It's got our map to inclusion and belonging, and it also has the teaching pyramid, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So you can look for things there. If you want to email us any specific questions, you can email us at beginningtogether@wested.org, and that's a generic email that will be sent to whoever can get back to you. So if you said, I was at the early math presentation and I had a question for Ine, if we will make sure she gets that. What I was trying to do is I was trying to do a new share so I could give them a little glimpse of the video, because we do. But is there any other questions or things in the chat that we can, otherwise I'll just show them a little video example. So I just want you guys to see, these are available if you are part of the, you sign up through early childhood videos, and that's on that web page we talked about again. But this is just a little section on universal design. And so I just want to show you kind of what's available.
Early education is really where kids with disabilities learn how to be successful adults.
On a daily basis, an important way to support all children, including children with disabilities, is to adopt the practices of universal design.
Universal design focuses on the design and composition of an environment inside and out to support access to the greatest extent possible by all children, regardless of their age, size, ability, or disability. Universal design should also maximize independence when possible.
For example, making boundaries for activities, such as providing a tray or box lid for tabletop activities, will make it easier for all children, but especially those with motor control disabilities, to more easily contain the materials she or he is working with.
Universal design for learning is based on the fact that children learn in different ways. The focus is on engagement, or why they learn, representation, or what they learn, and action and expression, or how they learn.
The universal design principles of engagement.
I'm going to stop because it's better with closed captioning, and I couldn't find my closed caption one. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any other questions.
Someone just wanted to know if there was a way to link the survey. They can't access it from.
Carolyn will figure that out, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, the videos are great, and they're all available to anybody. Like I said, if you just go to the map website I mentioned earlier. So I'm hoping that Carolyn figures out a different way to provide the survey links. Let me see if I can do one. Let's try it just this way. See if that helps. That's the link to the, if you cut and paste that might work. But in the meantime,
Can you put the video link?
sure. Give me half a second. I'll put the link to where you get the videos. I just have to get to it.
I'm gonna try to put this link in the chat. Yes, there you go, everyone.
There's the link to the videos, and I can share. If you get to that link, you have to sign in as a user, but you just create a password, and it's free to everyone. And then when you get in there, you look for the videos from Inclusion Works, and that's how you will find them. And this is the page I was saying for Inclusion Works on our website that has downloading the book in English and in Spanish. And then here is the video series. And then there's some additional tools if you're interested. And with that, we are at 11:05, and I know you have 5 minutes to take a break and get to your next session. We thank you all. You guys have been very kind and appreciate that. So we will see you around.
Someone asked about a hard copy of Inclusion Works.
So there's our limited hard copies. They may be available for sale, so you could reach out to us.
That was Justine. Justine, that was for you.
Okay.
Hazel, did you have a question? I guess. No, oh, no.
Okay. Well, I don't want to go over time. So we're going to end this webinar. So please see you all. Thanks.
Oops.
See Justine?
Yes, I copied it.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, bye-bye.